What up, Stripe Gang? We back in here one more time. I'm your host, Uptown Black. Do you people a favor real quick. Hit that like button, that subscribe button. Engage with me one time, if you would, please. You did that? All right, good looking out. Now we going to get into this week 3 recap real quick. Um, I would say not, I started to say it's just what the doctor ordered, but it's like, for me, really, it's more like almost what the doctor ordered. Like, things are starting to round into shape to some degree, but they still leaving a lot of meat on the bone, right? Starting with obviously the elephant in the room that we probably gonna be talking about. Hopefully not past mid season, but in all likelihood we probably talking about it till at least mid season. The O line they look better. They started it to a degree. It's like they starting to gel in pass protection, but um I ain't gonna take nothing away from the fact that they got some reps in together now. When they took some live bullets, they kind of starting to figure each other out. But they only maybe about halfway there. Truth is, part of what you seeing is, and not to take nothing from the Jets, but they saw the Steelers and the Cowboys the first 2 weeks of the season, two of the most disruptive front sevens in football, and they saw those guys with four new O line starters, meaning literally nobody on your offensive line has played with any of the guys in the room before. And they, again, to me, I think hopefully they can overcome that bad decision by Zach Taylor to not play none of the starters. I mean, out of everything else, you should at least been playing your rebuilt O line that was all strangers to each other. So again, like as bad as they looked the first 2 weeks, it was that plus the fact of who they had to face with zero preparation for a whole offseason. With that being said, part of the reason why they look better Sunday is because the Jets don't have, and they got a couple dogs up front too. Don't get me wrong, Quincy Williams, them boys hell. But nah, they don't have as a unit what those other two defensive fronts have. So, it looked how it should look, so we ain't gonna complain. That being said, like I said, is they still got some things that they need to, it's still a lot to be cleaned up, which is a good thing because if they can get it cleaned up, then that means the ceiling is maybe higher than we thought. If they can't get it cleaned up, then how it looked Sunday is how it's gonna look week in, week out, and then you got to ask yourself, what teams is that gonna carry you over? It'll carry you over the Jets. Will it carry you over the Chiefs? See what I'm saying? Will it carry you over the Dolphins? We gonna find out. But main thing being like a lot of who they brought in the offseason, they brought in Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and Lyle Collins. All three of those guys are solid all around O linemen, above average all around O linemen. But their forte, the three of them, is they're better run blockers than they are pass blockers. So again, I'll for now I'll chalk it up to time. Um, they're obviously out of sync with Joe Mixon, which is like odd because, and I think maybe somewhere in there, Joe Mixon is maybe nursing an injury that they ain't really talking about because it don't really make sense for Joe to be out of sync with him. But P. Ryan, and granted, into the game situation, the Jets maybe to some degree have folded up their tents, but still, there ain't no explaining why P. Ryan is averaging more than double, almost triple what Mixon's averaging per carry, other than there has to be some type of lack of rapport thus far with Joe Mixon. Maybe he's not trusting the running lanes to be where they're supposed to be yet when adjusting to the new line. But I also think that there's some type of injury going on in there. But whatever it is, they got to get it fixed. If it means running the ball with P. Ryan more, whatever it got to be, they got to get it together because the large part, if you can't get the run game going, then you don't have a credible play action game. And when I say they leaving a lot of meat on the bone, if they can get balance between their rush and attack, as far as on a down to down basis, a rush per rush basis, just like how they have, if they can have the run game be as productive as we've seen the pass game be, or relatively speaking, or whatever. If they can achieve that balance, this offense will be unstoppable because you gotta account for three stud receivers. I think a tight end who has a higher ceiling than what we've seen so far in his career. You got another top 10 back, all around back, and then the play action game is clicking on top of that. So they got to get the run game going. I don't know if it's creativity, if it's or if it's more the line or if it's more Joe Mixon, but collectively they got to get that together. You know what I'm saying? Because part of what the issue or what the issue that causes, you ain't got no balance, right? That's why you see them not being able to sustain drives for 4 quarters throughout the game. They'll have a game plan that you know 3 or 4 different drive scripts will work for a sustained drive, but even then they get in plus territory without getting touchdowns far too often. Especially if you're talking about for a team with Super Bowl aspirations. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, like, with no run game to balance them out, defenses can key on the pass once they get into the red zone. Because you're not trying to end up, off schedule in the red zone, knowing that you can't keep settling for field goals, right? So, that's something that they got to get cleaned up, man. Like I said, I 20s like I said, the final score looked like it should, right, but it didn't look like it could. Obviously, you had the missed field goal, which would have gave them 30 points, and that's I said before the season started. 30 is something they should be shooting for to try to hit week in, week out because they got the offensive firepower to do it against most teams in the NFL, even some of the better defenses, if they can get a little bit of protection and a little bit of push in the run game. But a lot of that starts with having, I won't just say red zone efficiency. It's I feel like with the type of offense they got, if they get inside the 30 yard line, the 35 yard line, we should be talking about 7 points, 2 out of 3 trips. You know what I'm saying? So, it was a good win or whatever. But I'm me personally, with what this team showed they can be capable of if everything goes right. And that's obviously always a big if in professional sports. But if everything goes right, what this team is capable of, I'm looking past teams like the Jets. I'm looking at how you gonna perform against Buffalo, how you gonna perform against Kansas City. Those type of teams, right? So, yeah, that's that. You can't. We love Money Mac, but we want to see less of them. We want to see 7 points more often because you not playing for a playoff spot. Now you playing for a ring, right? Defensively, pass rush is improving. I say that because it wasn't just Trey Hendrickson going off and basically they saying 2.5, but really he had 3 sacks, including a strip sack. But it's Trey Hendrickson had a game and other guys were supporting, and that's cool against the Jets. But when you talking about playing against the best of the best, they gonna have to find some interior pass rush from somewhere. Um, I mean, BJ Hill, don't get me wrong, I ain't taking nothing from BJ Hill, but it take more than just BJ Hill. So Zach Carter, I don't know if it's Cam Sample kicking in on passing downs, Hubbard, whoever, they have to get more interior pass rushing. And again, whether it be Sample, Osai, somebody else has to start complimenting Hendrickson on the other side, on the other edge in the pass rush. Like that has to happen because you know Hendrickson a dog, but look at last year, right? Like he was able to carry them defensively as far as from an edge rush perspective. He was able to carry them for I don't know how many weeks in the season. But when it really counted, like toward the end of the regular season and into the playoffs, he was gassing out because he was having to do it all with Osai being out, and you had spot help from Hubbard, Khalid Kareem, those guys, but nothing consistent. So they need another edge rusher, which I screamed from the mountaintops. Excuse me. I screamed from the mountaintops all offseason about them needing to go get an edge rusher. Jerry Hughes, Melvin Ingram, somebody. And they felt comfortable with what they had, but now it's time for you have to see these, between Sample, Osai, um, Khalid Kareem, those guys, whether it's interior or on the edge, we got to start getting something consistent out of them. That trio of guys. It don't got to be the same guy week in, week out, but at least got to be one or two of them week in, week out chipping in, right? Um, the other thing I say, like the big plays. I said it. I believe I said it last week, and I'm probably going to end up saying it as probably as long as Zach Taylor is the head coach, or at least as long as he's building the offense and calling the plays. The defense did what they needed to do and force turnovers, get sacks, because one thing we seen from Zach Taylor called offenses, and I ain't like riding his back just yet. We might get there. I ain't riding his back just yet, but the thing we seen from Zach Taylor-led offenses is that they'll be explosive, but they won't be consistent, right? You'll have a few series where they're going to pick up chunk plays and set up touchdowns, and even, big plays for touchdowns like Boyd had this week that just passed. But it won't be you won't be able to count on that offense down in, down out. And what that means is you got to give them help. Now they're gonna take the help and make it do what it's supposed to do, but they need them turnovers. They need them short fields because it just they're a team. I think with somebody, I'm just saying, with somebody else, and I don't know who yet, but with somebody else at the running that offense with what they got, their team should be that should be a threat to put up 40 on just about anybody. Like they should, even the best defenses in the league, they should be able to score 4 touchdowns on three touchdowns and 3 field goals, whatever. They should be 30 or better on everybody, around 40 to 42 on most, right? So they did what they needed to do. I'm not gonna demerit them for the numerous picks they dropped. I won't call Mike Hilton's play a dropped pick. You know what I mean? Maybe if he was in a better position, but that'd have been a hard thing. He's done it before. We've seen him do it, but that ain't that. You know, that one got a certain level of difficulty. Eli, think he might have just been a half step late. He would have had a pick six, and then Cheeto, both plays down. He had 3. I'm not sure what the third one was, but both plays downfield. He had action at getting a pick, and he ain't bring it home. But nonetheless, we ain't gonna hold that against them because everything else they did what they were supposed to do. Now, the last thing I'm gonna say about the defense, right? ADG, Akeem Davis Gaither. I'm gonna say it now, and I may be wrong. We'll see, but another game or two like that he shows the ability to play at that level in the run game and the pass game this season, you may start to see them talk about letting Jermaine Pratt walk in free agency, depending on what type of money he commanded, right? Or demanding, should I say. Like, because think of it this way. They got what you consider a good problems. You got an excellent young core. What that means is you've had a lot of success with guys who are not yet in their prime or who are hitting their prime, and you getting them for the cheapest because they all on rookie contracts, right? Or most of them on rookie contracts. But what that means on the flip side is over the next 2, 3 years, you got to pay Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson. You may or the way I see it, Jesse Bates is probably gone. You got to pay Von Bell. You got to pay Cheeto. You gonna have to pay Hendrickson again. You may end up deciding to have to pay Reader again. I ain't even mentioned Burrow or Chase yet. So you can't keep everybody. And you got to kind of look at how you pipeline in your positions, right? They can afford to lose Boyd if the plan is for them to keep Chase and Higgins. Still means they're gonna have to draft somebody to be that third musketeer, right? Or that third Migo, right? Um, you already kind of have somebody to step into that role of Jermaine Pratt with Akeem Davis Gaither. You kind of already got your replacement. So that ain't even eating into your salary cap, right? Just like in all likelihood, as much as I would want to, see the potential of having Bates and Hill in the secondary, I don't see them. I see them paying Von Bell and just moving Dax Hill into Jesse Bates' spot because you got so many other people to pay. So just keep an eye on that, right? And that ain't taking nothing from Jermaine Pratt. He has come along like he one of them dudes that he was a mid round draft pick and like the Bengals history with linebackers. It's like okay, converted safety. We gonna see how this go. And it wasn't good his first 2 years for real, but the last couple he been doing his thing. So not to take nothing from Jermaine Pratt, he just may if he ball out when the rest of this year, he may price himself out of the Bengals market, considering that they got so many other people to pay, and they got on deck replacement who's already in the system, familiar with the other players, XYZ. But 13 tackles, I think he had a PBU as well. Akeem Davis Gaither, he's looking like a draft steal. They got him in the fourth round, I think 2 years ago, based on like he had a second round talent, but he was like injured. He finished his college career with injury, so they might have got a steal there. Getting Logan Wilson in the third round and getting him in the fourth round of the same draft, that may manifest itself into Jermaine Pratt being, allowed to being let to test the market and see how it go. You know, if Davis Gaither can continue his level of play from last week throughout the rest of the year, whether it's him filling in for Pratt or not. Because you already kind of can see from just the way he performed in the role that he played this week that just passed, he can play that role, even though that ain't his role on the team as of now. So, which again adds more to his value. So just keep an eye on that. Coaching, which is probably what we end up. Hopefully, it don't end up being a topic for the whole year, but it could, right? And one thing I'm hoping, I got a theory, and I'm hoping that I'm right, is that what you saw the first 2 weeks was more or less like a preseason playbook, right? They knew they hadn't played their starters all preseason. They knew that they had a brand new rebuilt O line with 5 guys that never played with none of each other, and they knew they was facing two of the better defensive fronts, right? My theory might even be just a hope or even a wish that what was going on is they were just dependent on their defense to keep them in the game and do what they basically did and couldn't do at the same time and finish at the end of the game on offense with what they had, right? So, you know, maybe what we saw in it might have been desperation. It might have been because their back was against the wall, or it might have been what they had planned all along, where they finally opened up the playbook based on the circumstances to more of what the full playbook is. Um, like I said, I make a prediction, and now this I'm gonna do a Miami game you know breakdown probably tomorrow. But if I'm gonna make a prediction now that use the three safety things that everybody been looking for and asking for for the first 3 games of the season, I think you finally see those Thursday night against Miami. Given the weapons they got, I think you partly what you even might have had going on was Lou Anarumo holding that back. Because look at the quarterbacks they faced. And no disrespect to none of them guys, but Joe Flacco, uh, Cooper Rush, and Mitch Trubisky. Those aren't necessarily guys that strike enough fear to make you reveal your hand if you think you got a sweet little package that team's gonna have a hard time dealing with, right? So I'm thinking, you see the three safety stuff um, this weekend, but I also think that this Thursday rather, and I also think this Thursday and going forward, you're gonna see more of the creative side of the playbook. As the offensive line has time to gel and being able to have enough chemistry to put some of these certain other plays in the game plan, and B as the offense start to have more success with the things that they adding in to the playbook. Also, I think you'll get you will get more run. You will get a better push in the run game as that happens. And I think once that happens, you'll start seeing play action get introduced too. So, like I said, hopefully what we saw as far as the play selection and the aggressiveness and all of that, which is again what got them over last year. Hopefully that was a sign of what's to come with that. Um, I don't know if it's a minor thing or a major thing, but Zach Taylor at 4 years in still having game management issues, and it may like this particular thing might be small, but it indicates a bigger problem, something that should be stamped out by your 4th year as a head coach, especially after having gone to the Super Bowl. But how do you have 2 delay of game penalties in one half on offense? That shows a clunky operation. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stuff still being figured out, and that's cool in the preseason. That's why you do it in the preseason and get it out the way, get it out your system when the games don't count. Like me personally, I think like if it had just been coming out dropping the Pittsburgh game, it's like week 1 is always crazy, whatever can happen. But then you come out and lose and I ain't trying to ride down on them. I know we just got to win who they and all of that. I just got to win and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's like this. If I'm still seeing things that been an issue, that been getting in the way of the team's success coming from the head coach 4 years in, and then part of those issues are stemming from a ridiculous decision to take a rebuilt offensive line and not play them at all together in the preseason. That second loss, you gotta hope they do enough over the next 5 to 6 weeks to make it where we not having to worry about whether or not that second loss and that obvious rust and all of that is gonna be the reason why they get in the playoffs, don't get in the playoffs, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? But there's just things like that. Like he still has issues with, and he did a better job of it Sunday, granted, but he still got issues with deciding when to be aggressive and when to be conservative. Like 4 years in with what you got, it's the NFL, dog. You got a top at least, and no debate, top 10 quarterback on a rookie contract. You got a top 5 receiver on a rookie contract. You got another top 20 receiver on a rookie contract, and one of the better slot receivers in the league. You got a defense that's underrated. It's a no-name defense. It ain't really no superstars on there, but as a unit, they get busy. You can't let that go to waste. And a guy who's taken 4 years to, like, I don't know. We gonna see. Hopefully I'm wrong. But I feel like what I watched last year, I'm not gonna go so far as to say that they got to the Super Bowl in spite of Zach Taylor. But I'm gonna say even with that bad old line, I think a more veteran established head coach make an easier run of it. And that's my opinion. We'll see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. Only time will tell. But another thing, man, with Joe Mixon struggling right now, right? They gotta give they gotta give offenses something more to prepare for, to take some of the focus of them being able to prepare for Mixon away, because like it ain't cutting it right now. Like it wasn't bad in the Pittsburgh game, but these last two games it just ain't been there. And usually Joe is like always upbeat, you know what I'm saying, and in good spirits regardless of how the game going. But you could clearly see yesterday that he was yesterday, day before yesterday, you could clearly see that he was agitated, like frustrated. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if there's an injury component to that, or if it's or if it's just again a lack of cohesion with the O line. But it seems to be working with P Ryan. I think it's time to start trying it with Chris Evans to some degree. You need a package for Chris Evans that don't just involve him splitting out and playing receiver. You need a package for Chris Evans that pose. You need at least 2, 3 run plays in there that pose a credible threat to balance everything else out. Because if you ain't going to have that and he struggled with pass protection on top of that, then you really just got him sitting on the bench. And until they can get it figured out with Joe Mixon, if you don't add in Chris Evans, you don't really have the explosive play element from the running back position. Like I rock with Samaje P. Ryan. You know what I mean? I ain't got nothing against him, but he hit some big plays last year, but it's one of them situations where everything got to go perfect for him to hit a big play. Chris Evans and Joe Mixon both got that juice where they can, take sugar and, the phrase, where we at 27 minutes, I can cuss now. They got the juice where they can take shit and turn it to sugar, right? So you gotta get a package built into the offense for Chris Evans, and you got to get a package built in for Hayden Hurst and go to it. You got to get a package built in for Hayden Hurst, and part of that package got to focus on tearing up the seam. Like that's what you got that type of tight end for. You got to start going to it earlier, because if you can start moving the chains early in the game, regardless of what they try to do with Higgins or Chase, and on top of that, you know how it go. You spreading them out and you making waves with Hayden Hurst. For sure, Tyler Boyd is getting one-on-ones. And I'm almost certain he's either probably getting a third cover corner or their second best cover safety. You feel what I'm saying? So, like I said, I know a lot of that depend on the O-line gelling a little bit more. But, man, as the head coach, if you ain't come on, man, what you doing? Whatever the deficiency is, you put the roster together in the offseason. You feel what I'm saying? Now, sometimes you look at your roster and you just know you don't have it, right? But if you look at the roster and you know you got it, whatever the deficiencies that got to be overcame, that's on the head coach. So, I mean, it's more meat on the bone. It's just, you know what I'm saying, he going to have to go into his bag of tricks and find something to make it work. Because the truth of the matter is, even though they won that game, it probably wasn't really as close as the 27-12 score looked at. They should have had 40 points, bro. They should have had 40 points. Facts. So, whatever, if you weigh up the end of the season, whatever shortcomings they didn't have at this point, it is not based on the roster. Yeah, it's going to have, there's still holes here and there. Ain't no perfect roster. Ain't no perfect roster. When you got a quarterback that good and you got a roster that's just about as complete as this roster is, anything else is on the coaching staff, bro. I mean, the players got to execute, but if it's ever any question of whether or not they be being put in a position to succeed at all with a roster because with a roster like this, you got a lot of margin for error. Look, they went to the Super Bowl last year and their O-line was dog shit. So, again, not to ride on Zach too much, but it's like this. They done did everything else. It's time the microscope go on the coaching staff from here on out, because they got the players. And for speaking of coaching staff and giving credit where credit is due, I think this week that just passed, Anarumo, he's always good at disguising his defenses and whatnot, right? But one issue I always have with Anarumo, again, he had that balance issue too. Like sometimes, where I say more of a timing issue than a balance issue. Sometimes Anarumo don't know when to stay conservative or when to send the house. But he struck the perfect balance with that. He was more aggressive, but he had him file back and drop coverages, show blitzes and drop coverages more often. Granted, they was more in control of the situation, more control of the game. So you want to see that balance get maintained even when it's a tight contest. Because one thing Lou will do, he'll send them. And he'll send them sometimes when he really don't need to. And he end up, bailing the quarterback out by sending an extra rusher to vacate, a route that probably would have been covered. Or at least the quarterback wouldn't have known at the snap, okay, if he coming, I'm throwing it to this guy. So, hats off to Anarumo. Realistically, I don't know if he will become a head coaching candidate. Seriously, it's an offensive league, and it's not like he's the best of D coordinators. But right now, you can't take nothing from what he done so far. And so, like I said, man, it was a good win, good team win. They played complimentary football, but I still feel like they left a lot of meat on the bone. They left a lot of points on the field. They left a lot of turnover. They left a lot of turnover opportunities on the field too. And my thing is, I'm not looking at, again, no disrespect to nobody, but it is what it is. I'm not looking at teams like the Jets. You know what I'm saying? I'm not looking at teams, quite frankly, like the Cowboys, right? I'm not looking at those type of teams as those aren't litmus tests for what this team got potential to be, right? Like you gotta where they at now, you gotta see them go up against the best and look and assess how they look against the best of the best, the ones that's gonna be there in the end because they have the talent alone to steamroll a team like the Jets that's young, trying to figure it out, still playing undisciplined, in semi inexperienced head coach, roster not complete, quarterback picture murky. Like they supposed to steamroll teams like that even when they don't play their best. So for me, I'm not knocking it. I'm happy for the win. Again, who they all day, every day anyway. But at the end of the day, give me 27 give me 27-17 over the Chargers, right? Give me 27-21 over the Chiefs. I respect that far more than 27-12 over the Jets. Again, good team win. I ain't taking nothing from it. Let it be a building block. Get the boo-boo off your brain and shake off that ugly start and go get some money. But other than that, like I said, happy with the win. Still need to see more from the guys. But on to Miami. Stripe gang.